and there's someone else out there, there's another man out there, which is a better option. And because we're talking monogamous relationships, they are only going to have sex with one guy at a time. And if I can't be the best guy out there, I don't get any sex. So that is the problem I'm finding. I don't think I'm finding a problem finding women who like me, who are attracted to me, at least on some level to a certain degree. But finding a woman that thinks I am the best and picks me after the vast array of other options, over the vast array of other options she has, is a problem. So with a friend with benefits, the first reason why I think it may be easier to obtain is because she is, you both understand you are not in an exclusive relationship. She might be having, meeting up and sleeping with other men, but she is nevertheless willing to include you in her sex life, which, and this is an irony that I've been thinking about, because on the one hand, I've been listening to Troy Francis a lot, and he was saying on the one hand, women are more sexual than men. The women are the real players. What I find very ironic, though, is that why are women so picky if they want to be sexual and they want to explore their sexuality and all that sort of thing, particularly when they're either happily single or if they're in an open or polygamous relationship, then why are they so fussy about who they have sex with? Are there such things as sexually inclusive women who are willing to date a guy who is whom they might not, who they're obviously comfortable with, both in physically and in terms of as a person, as a man, in terms of having a conversation and all that, but they may not necessarily see as high value, or they may regard him as being a bit weak or a bit of a simp, or and all that sort of thing. But they're just willing, out of kindness or compassion, to do something with that guy, do something of a sexual nature. The other thing that I think is ironic about women, and there's all stuff that I may well elaborate in future podcasts, but you find that in my experience has been growing up, I have Asperger's syndrome, and I was diagnosed at a young age. I'm not one of these newcomers who just calls themselves autistic, and these top YouTubers out there that but they present this very kind of super high functioning view of autism out there. I am authentically autistic. I was diagnosed at a young age. People when in the 80s, when I was at school, primary school, the teachers didn't really know what to do with me because they found my behaviour a bit weird, and eventually got diagnosed at the age of 13. And I was always in that special needs camp. I had support assistants working with me in some of my classes, not really helping me to read and write because I could do that, but trying to understand from the class and follow the lesson from a kind of social communication perspective and all that sort of thing. And obviously, and the same thing would happen in other scenarios. I was always, when I was occasionally sent off to camps and things like that, I was always very uncomfortable in situations where I didn't have an adult that I knew very well or I could trust. So I had lots of support assistants and teachers making allowances for me for things that I felt uncomfortable with. That was kind of, that was my childhood. And normally this was women. So I am used to kind of being kind of mollycoddled from women, in a way, mollycoddled, or whatever you call that, kind of sheltered. And as a teenager, I didn't really want to have mates because I was living at home. I want the time I wanted, my free time I wanted to spend on my own, thinking my own thoughts and all that. So I didn't really want mates. So I used to hang out on my own a lot. And where was I? And the thing is that I just basically latched on to my parents' friends. And occasionally, though, I mean, is occasionally my parents may have, I don't know, John and Julie round for a meal, say, and then I might sit down and have a meal with them. Then I'd go up to my parents' bedroom and talk to myself. That was my social life. And because that was what was safe, easy, and comfortable for me. And I thought I was being mature because I was hanging out with the adults. but actually I was kind of avoiding all the kind of play and squabbles that kids or teenagers engage in. So I kind of thought I was being mature, but actually I was kind of not learning all that stuff. But the point is, I'm digressing. I know I'm digressing here, but the point is, in my childhood and even in my adulthood, even at work and things like that, it's been women. Like my relationship with women has often been as someone to look after you to some extent, to look out to check you're okay, as a support system type role. And it's very, very difficult going from that to then being the alpha male and being like high value, strong and all that sort of thing. And I find it very ironic that women, tend to be the ones who dominate the caring professions, nurses, teachers, support assistants, that sort of thing. And they're obviously willing to cater for men and accommodate men in various ways who have special needs or disabilities, who are perceived as weak and needy. But when it comes to the sexual thing, they're not normally willing to, if they are in a polygamous or open relationship or happily single, and they are but nevertheless having a sex life, they don't seem to be willing, generally speaking, to include those men in their sex lives or accommodate those weaker men, which I find very ironic. I know that a guy called there's another dating coach called Frank Kermit who talks about this. And says what can often turn some women off certain men is the men give the women the mother feeling, and they make them feel like the mother rather than the lover, and they have those two roles. So anyway, I am digressing, but the point is, in my logical thinking, you would have thought there would be at least some women out there. So I'm talking reasonably attractive youngish women, not some saggy overweight 65-year-old with short grey hair. Not thinking that. Reasonably attractive youngish women who would be willing to accommodate a lower value man into their sex life if they're happily single and they enjoy sex. They'd be willing to accommodate, because after all, they don't have to commit to this lower value guy and all that. This weak, simpy guy. They don't have to commit to it. They can also sleep with the high value guys, the jacked up guys, and whoever is offering it to them. But they give you an hour a month or so for the weak simpy guy. By the way, I'm not saying I'm weak and simpy and all that. I think I'm probably a lot stronger and more masculine than I'm suggesting. But I'm taking this idea to an extreme here. To try and make the point. I do nevertheless have my moments of being. I think I have my odd moments where I can be quite alpha and quite dominant. Not all the time, but there have been moments I think when I can display those traits. So that's the first reason I think it's easier, because they're not being exclusive. They are at a stage in life when they are sleeping with more than one man, or they're willing to do so. They enjoy sex, they like exploring sexuality, and it might be easier to find such a woman to give you the time of day than a woman looking for a purely exclusive relationship, to be your girlfriend and you to be their one and only. That's the first reason. The second reason is that, and I won't elaborate so much on this, it takes other compatibility issues out of the equation, because when I've been on my dates, they've all gone along the lines of, well, we talk about generic things or whatever we feel we may have in common. So music, something we may talk about. Increasingly, I talk about the autism thing as well. I'm starting to think that it might be worth kind of bringing that up. Music, we talk about any common interests we may have, which may have led to the date. Or whatever we were chatting about, in our messaging. But I never get to the point of sort of saying, well, what is this for? What do you really want out of this? Because I don't really want to ask the heavy stuff. And I'm just trying to figure out how comfortable I am with her as well. So my thinking is, well, let's just talk casually on the first date about this stuff. And then the second date, if I was to have a second date, I'd have had time to think about her. She'd thought a bit more about me, and then I'd go into slightly more serious questions and find out seriously what she's looking for and all that sort of thing. But basically, a friend with benefits scenario takes away, it removes a lot of other issues like our common interests and values and all that kind of thing, which may be an obstacle to have having a girlfriend, and basically there's only a few things that matter. Basically, are you comfortable with each other in a both in a physical and sexual kind of way, and also just in terms of your personalities, and you get all along, and all you're meeting up for is do something sexual, and the rest of the time you're living completely separate lives. So for those two reasons, I'm thinking it may be easier to obtain a friend with benefits situation than to obtain a girlfriend. Now, the next thing is, well, okay, if that's the case, then how would I go about obtaining a friend with benefits? Now, I actually asked a friend of mine this question. I spoke to her a few months ago, and then about this, and I after quite a bit of deliberation, I sent a fairly lengthy Facebook message to this particular girl, just asking in general, because I know she's had been in these kind of situations before. But here are the problems that I see that I'm having to work through myself, because ordinarily friends with benefits, and I've witnessed a few lately actually among one or two friends, ordinarily they are initiated through flirting and banter and non-verbal signals. It's the same kind of flirting and banter and non-verbal signals that that lead to a girlfriend, that also initiate friends with benefits. But they clearly basically they both feel that they're not really compatible, or they don't really want to commit, or they're not at that stage of life, but they like each other, so they both kind of want to have sex at times. But that is a problem for me, because that's the one thing I struggle with. And for me, the way I'd rather do it is well, how I find somebody, that's a big issue, but if I did find somebody that I wanted to be friends with benefits with, that we would maybe have a little meet up, maybe possibly have a chat on Zoom or something, just so that we can have a brief conversation, and we talk about the parameters of what we intend to do right away. Saying what I want to do, what I want to do specifically, and what does she want, and then she come to my place, or I go to her place, and then we meet. We probably sit down, have a cup of tea, and then we might just try just very, very slowly and gently get a bit more intimate. We might just start undressing each other, just slowly, that sort of thing, and then just touching each other up, and seeing how comfortable we are feeling, and maybe possibly leading to full-blown intercourse, but not necessarily. If we both feel comfortable, but we may not on the first time feel comfortable. We may feel comfortable going that way maybe the second time we meet. But what is the point is, I'm not looking for somebody just to have do a quickie with. I'm certainly not interested in a quickie in at in the back of the smoking area at Wetherspoons, where you can't get undressed properly, and there's no quality to it. There's got to be a quality to it. There's got to be a quality to this, where we can undress properly, we can spend some time, we can build towards it. And I actually think that the way I view sexuality is probably will be appeal to a lot of women, because a lot of men, the complaint I hear is a lot of men just want one thing, and they just want it all quickly, and they're too fast. And actually, I'm not. I want it slow and gentle and relaxing, and nothing heavy, nothing demanding, and just to enjoy that physical sensation of it. And that's the way I wish to do it, and that's the way I've seen escorts on several occasions. That's the way I've always done it with escorts. And I think a lot of women would enjoy that, would experience. They'd find it refreshing to what they might think most men want. But the problem I have with so many things is communication. How do you communicate that? And for me, I wouldn't want to have to bother. The whole point of this is to avoid having to rely upon the flirting and the banter and the non-verbal, and be able to just explain, this is what I'd like us to do, and are you okay with this? And We just work it out together, being completely open and honest.